Doing a little wiring tonight. You can see I've got the key on. You can see the light. And so I've wired the horn. And on these bikes, the horn button's here on the handlebars. This is the wire for it. And if you watch this, notice I didn't press the button. So I'm gonna have to pull this off and see what's going on there. Obviously it's grounding out when it only should be grounding out when I push the button. So one of the things I found out when I pulled the horn button off was there was right in there, it looked like there had been some soldering, and I think it was holding up one part of the horn button. There's a couple pieces on the inside. So I ground that all off, and we'll put it back together and see if we can get it to work. And here's the wiring diagram for this. So this is a Canadian wiring diagram. It comes out of this original owner's manual, operator's manual. It was built by the Department of National Defense. I think this is 1941. It's a great book. I use it for so many different things, but the wiring diagram is it's very specific to a WLC. The WLA had a different diagram, and none of the repair manuals or restoration manuals ever show you the Canadian wiring diagram. So had to find this original manual. We use it all the time. It's 83 years old and still gets used. So here's some of the components for the horn button. So you got the holder, the shell, whatever you want to call it. Here's your button, goes inside. And then there's a spring and a clip that also go in there. And what I think is it was catching on this little bit of solder, and it was holding it up, which was grounding it out, which was making it the horn work. So we'll put it back together and see if we can get this to work properly. So we reinstalled the switch. Everything seems to be working fine. Feels good. Depresses right. And but it's not working. I'll have to figure that one out. Start over. So I figured out what I did wrong was inside the horn, when you depress it, the spring hits this copper piece, and it's supposed to ground out onto the bars, and it wasn't because it was still painted. So now you can see it works. So what I did is just underneath this little piece of copper that's underneath the horn button, I just cleaned off some of the paint on the handlebars, and now I got good ground. So now I can put the new end on here and attach it to the horn and continue on. Just little things like that you kind of get messed up on trying to figure out what did I do wrong when it was nothing. We're going to continue with some wiring here. So we got the horn all set up. So here's the style of ends we're going to use. So we'll put it on the wire, and then what we'll do is we'll crimp it and then solder it on so it's nice and tight. So having a lot of problems tonight with the wiring. I brought in power from the dash to the front where there's this Bakelite mount, so it's like it can't ground. So it's great for bringing the power in, and then from the switch it goes back and then you power up at this switch. So you bring your power to here, then you kind of bolt them together. Then it runs back, and then two more wires that are hooked up in the switch goes back to your headlight, and one's your high beam, one's your low beam. So playing around with this tonight, and I got power. I got a test light, and I got power, then I don't, and I'm wondering what's going on. And the end result is the switch. For some reason, inside, it's not making connection all the time. So I'm, going back and forth. I took my switch off. I unhooked everything that I'd already hooked up. And I'm having issues. I'm like, I just can't get power. And one of the things I was doing that obviously it was a mistake, this mount, I thought, okay, this parkerized bolt, it's not painted. It's not, it's solid mounted. There's a rubber in here, but it's solid mounted to the springer, and that should be a great ground. So I was grounding out the headlight reflector, and I was getting nothing. So finally, I ran a wire. You can see it right here. I ran it on the other side of the frame, like a bolt right here that goes right in. That's a great ground. So I took off the power, and if I goes directly into my headlights, I got high and low. So I got it all figured out. That was 2 hours of learning. I don't want to say wasting time, but learning. And it's not the first time I've done these. It's just these switches usually, and these are original switches. So I thought, wow, those are usually really good. If you start using the aftermarket ones, they're just horrible. You're always chasing issues. So this isn't even the switch I'm using. This is the bad part. I have a switch right over here that I have to finish rebuilding. So what's happening is, if I can show you this right here, let's see here. So to give you an idea, when you turn it, this is your contact, and you click it, and it clicks over, and then it goes from this power to that power, and if you go here, it clicks onto this power and that power. It's all depends on where you click it. So obviously, when on that switch that's not working, it's kind of getting hung up somewhere, and it's not seating well. If that makes any sense to you. When I do rebuild it, I'll do a video on it. But yeah, it's been very frustrating with the wiring on this thing, but that's wiring. So follow along. We'll keep plugging at it. So one of the things I wanted to say was, I've never went to school for any mechanics. Nothing. I just wanted to work on old bikes and learn, and everything's self-taught. Everything's basically watch a video, read a book, but mostly just hands-on. So the critics are out there. They're going to tell me I should have done this or done that, but you know what? That's so well. If you're following me, I'm going to try and show you some stuff so that you don't make the same mistakes I do. And that's why I'll show you the mistakes I'm doing and not hide them. I'm not going to make it look like I'm, I know everything, because I don't. I'm learning still. I've been doing this for 30 years, 30 plus years. There's always more to learn. So if you're watching this and you're learning something, that makes me happy, because that's what I want this channel to be, is people learning some things. Hopefully you get something out of it. Hopefully it's entertaining to you. The end result is we're going to take this bike that I never got it running. It was in pieces. And we're going to get it running and follow along. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be some hair pulling on my end, and hopefully some laughs on your end. But that's the whole thing, is just, this is real. This isn't TV, you know, like you might be watching it on TV, but this isn't some TV show where I'm you know, making it look like I know everything, and I have no faults, or I don't make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. That's how you learn. So if you enjoy it, great. If you want to criticize, go ahead, but you know what? I don't care. So after doing a little bit of pushing from behind on a couple spots with some tooling we have, got it pretty good. We'll end up just getting rid of a couple little scratches here and there to before we paint it, but and then put the cap on where there's a lid that goes over top here and clips in. Nice piece though, 80 years old. So this is the ignition switch that we're going to be using. This one's got a key on it. Some of them didn't have keys, but we're going to use one with a key. This is a new piece that's new old stock. Dash 44. This is the old one. And yeah, continue cleaning it up. We'll parkerize the rest of the components and then reassemble it. So another night of working on the wiring. So you can see we got the light on. So we got the second position, so that's for lights. You can see we got the light working. High and low. Horn works. We got the back tail light working. And I don't know if I can do this at the same time, but if I, there we go. That's the brake light. Hope you can see that. So we still got a little bit of playing around because these ends, they're a little bit loose. So I shaved one down so I can get a little bit tighter. So there's an inside and then the outside piece, and the outside piece actually tightens against it. Then I also found that the bulbs inside, like if I move this around, you see how loose it is? So I'm not sure. I might try and I got a couple ideas. I might try and put a little bit of solder on the outside of the bulb, like on this part, and see if I can kind of tighten it up. I'm not sure if the bulbs I'm using, so you can see how it just isn't perfect. Like that'll just rattle and it won't work half the time. So I'm gonna have to try and put some solder on there or figure out something. I'm not sure if the bulbs back in 1942, if they had a different end, if they were thicker. I've got a pile of bulbs, you know, just a lot. And I haven't really found any that fit any better. So that's 1157. So what I have to use is a single pole also. So that's where we're at. You know, we got the majority of the wiring pretty figured out. It's a good day. So what I did is I just put a little bit of solder on the outside of the bulb and like not the glass, but the obviously the socket, and I filed it down and just got it to really fit snugger, and it actually is helping with the grounding issue too, because it's grounding really well against the edge. So tail lights are working, brake light works also. So I'm still gonna buy new ends if I can find them. because they do have a spring-loaded pin in it that these ones don't. So these ones actually have a set screw, and what I did is on one of them that was loose, I ground down the one that inserts in so that this would tighten up tighter, and I also soldered onto the end of the pin so it would be longer, so it actually touch the bulbs better. So not 100%. I'm still not happy with it. It's not perfect for riding because there's still a chance of stuff coming loose. So I'll try and find these ends and replace them. But at this point, we got lights. Generator is wired up. The brake light switch is wired up. The horn, the headlight, the coil, the distributor or timer. Believe the majority of the dash is. I'll have to look at that again. And once we finish up the other ignition switch, then we'll replace it. I gotta check the wiring for this bulb. I don't think this one's, oh, it's got some power there. Maybe I do have it wired. Well, we'll figure that one out. So yeah, we're still got maybe a little bit to do, but not too much. So I'm happy with that. I'm happy to get the majority of the wiring figured out.